Welkom bij deze speciale aflevering van Access Journaal. We zijn op het prachtige eiland Sint Eustatius, Statia. En we spreken daar met mevrouw Alida Francis. Ze werd op 10 april beëdigd als Island Governor, Gezaghebber van Sint Eustatius. En het is een waar genoegen dat we haar een paar vragen kunnen stellen. Er is veel gebeurd in de afgelopen jaren op Sint Eustatius. En zij is als op het eiland geboren vrouw een bijzondere benoeming is het geweest. En ik denk ook een hele positieve benoeming voor Sint Eustatius. Dus we gaan praten met mevrouw Alida Francis. En de eerste vraag die we gaan stellen is: er was een ingreep vanuit Nederland, 2017... in het democratische proces. Het heeft lang geduurd voordat het helemaal hersteld is. Maar met haar benoeming is zeg maar het democratische proces hersteld. Maar is dat ook daadwerkelijk zo? En mevrouw Alida Francis, is the democracy fully restored on the island?
Indeed, Oscar, it has been a very long process, a bit over 4 years. And the normal democratic and administrative relations on St. Eustatius have been fully restored. And they have been restored at the moment of the appointment of the island governor of St. Eustatius on April 10th, 2024.
That's you, and that was quite an honor, I assume.
It was quite an honor, especially being an island child, also being involved in the restoration of democracy, first as a deputy government commissioner, followed afterwards as the government commissioner in charge of overseeing the whole process. It was quite a difficult process, especially being a child of the island. Mm-hmm. At the same point, it was also important in my view to continue the process regardless of how difficult it was, because by that time we had already had 2 previous government commissioners, and I realized that I'm from the island and I could not quit, because at the end of the day, this is my home. And I would have nowhere to go but to stay home. So it was important for me to work along, despite the difficult circumstances, with the civil servants on Statia, with the Island Council. Of course, we had great support of the civil servants in the Netherlands and other consultants and institutions that helped us to ensure that we met the criteria that was required to take each step in the restoration of the democracy, which was a gradual process.
Yes, a gradual process. But how do the people of Statia look back on the last years and the decisions that the Dutch government made regarding democratic institutions on the island?
Oscar, it will depend on who you speak to. Mm-hmm. In the whole process, when there was an intervention, there were different voices. There are people who supported the intervention, and there were also people who did not support the intervention. What I conclude is, at the end of the day, the democracy has been fully restored, and it is my hope and my ambition, and I believe there are many stations who support the idea that we should never find ourselves in this position again, regardless to what our standpoint is. I believe I have seen a lot of positive movements, mm-hmm. in that we are working together as Island and Executive Council in a dialogue platform. Both bodies of government, the executive as well as the legislative branch, has agreed that we will continue to work on improving the relations between us, that we will follow different trainings so that we can all understand our roles and responsibility, so that the island can govern better, and in our collaboration we can work better in the interest of the people of St. Eustatius. So I see that as positive. I think a very unique development is that you have 2 political leaders of the island, 2 parties that for many years did not always work well, because we know political parties don't work well together. But I see a new form of leadership in where the 2 political leaders of the party that has won the majority in the Island Council and the party that would normally be considered as opposition, I see them working well together on points that are of general interest for the island, less politics and more collaboration in the interest. So I think there's a new way of looking at how we can steer the island forward, and I hope that we can continue on that trend.
So that station never have to go back to the situation?
I don't think we will go there, because the parties have agreed also in the restoration of the democracy, not all the criteria were fully completed. So for instance, one of the criteria was to make a robust organization. But we do know in practice it takes years for you to make a robust functioning civil service. So what we have done is at least put the mechanisms in place, the processes, the procedures, but we have agreed in the restoration of democracy, in the agreement with the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Kingdom Relations and Digitalization, that together we will work on further improving the organization, further strengthening the organization, and funds were made available to that end. The same applies for the financial management, which was one of the most complex and difficult tasks. There too, the ministry has made funds available for which we can recruit professional support, consultants to help us so that we can continue to further improve the financial management of the public entity St. Eustatius. But my greatest ambition is to ensure that I hold true to the responsibility that I have, public order and safety. And in that light, I put a lot of focus on it. I've come to the realization that a lot of the challenges we face on small islands is the lack of information. So I want to be a governor that is different. Different in the sense that when I have to execute my responsibility, I don't want a top-down approach. I want an approach where we use communication, inform and educate the public before we start to enforce, so that people can better understand what expectations are of them in the process of public order and safety. So I will, in the coming period, exercise a lot of attention towards communicating the processes, but also the local legislation, so that people can be compliant.
You also already mentioned the recent visit to Nederland regarding the fairs. What can you tell us about that visit? Because you stayed quite some time in the Netherlands.
We, as an executive council, also the body of the Island Council, annually we attend what is called the VNG Congress, which is the Congress for the Dutch municipalities. This year we attended in full force, so the whole Island Council, almost 80% and 100% of the Executive Council, we were in the Netherlands. So at the VNG conference, besides attending the conference, we went at least a week and a half ahead, and we held very important discussions with a number of the ministries as well as other organizations. I think one of the most important meetings we held there was with the Association of Dutch Municipalities, the Ministry of BZK. We also had conversations about how we can allow the good governance to take effect, and helping all the players in the cooperation, the Samenspel, to understand their roles and their responsibilities so that we can function better optimally. How can we harmonize our cooperation as we work to serve the people of St. Eustatius?
So it was important you went there to Nederland and have all these conversations, but like we see in the last years, there's always one person that's really important for the island, the staatssecretaris. In last years it was mevrouw van Huffelen, Alexandra van Huffelen. Now we have a new Secretary of State. Did you already met Mr. Sabo?
I'm very happy that you asked that question exactly today, that you are interviewing me. The 10th of July was today. I had an introductory meeting with the new State Secretary and his team at the Ministry of Kingdom Relations and Digitalization. Overall, I felt it was a very good discussion where he has confirmed that he has used his first week to really delve into the portfolio of Kingdom Relations and, of course, in particular, to learn about the situation here on St. Eustatius. And I think it was a very good conversation. The fact that there is a change at the helm, I think one of the pluses is that the civil servants who really have all the background information, the history, they are still in place. And so I do expect that we can continue building on the relationships that we have built with the ministry in the past couple of years. I have also asked State Secretary Zabo to pay very keen attention to the fact that while we may be bundled as 6 islands in the Korean part of the Netherlands, because we don't only think of a the best islands, but also there are the class islands, to take account that there are 6 uniquely different islands.
Really different.
And in the samenwerking, in the cooperation, to always take this along.
Yes.
And I think that once we do that, we can't go wrong.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you, Oscar.